For my volunteering placement, I worked in conjunction with the church that oversaw a community food bank that I was allocated to work at each Tuesday afternoon. However, in my opinion, this did not solely classify as my overall voluntary experience, but only part. This was because my experience was inclusive of the classes and seminars that also contributed to this journey. As a result, this 10-week placement afforded me practical and critical inquiry of what exactly volunteering meant for me through both my placement and my seminars. In this reflective journal, I aim to articulate what I personally believe volunteering came to mean for me, and therefore, I must reference my placement as well as my module to provide a wholesome and fair reflection on what I qualify volunteering to mean. Therefore, with this, alongside additional reference to other resources and theoretical materials from both economical and sociological standpoints, I shall try to explain how my personal experiences across the 10-week period not only challenged my view of volunteering, but furthermore caused an enriched and new understandings to emerge. According to John Wilson's journal on volunteering, volunteering is any activity in which time is given freely to benefit another person, group, or cause. Wilson explains that unlike the spontaneous help given to the victim of an assault, where it is necessary to decide rapidly whether or not to take action, which is often brief and chaotic, volunteering is typically proactive rather than reactive and entails some commitment of time and effort. I use Wilson's explanation to highlight how I believe the act of volunteering requires intentionality. Although people may voluntarily do things for others in the spur of the moment, from my stance this is not volunteering. My volunteering placement was very deliberate. Organising and commencing my volunteering role required for me to be intentional at every stage. For example, I had to calculate what placement I should choose and plan around my schedule as to what day I would be able to do it. I had to make aims and goals for my placement due to the fact that my classes and coursework demanded us to make class presentations. Moreover, being intentional about timekeeping and registering my attendance was also important. I had the task of packaging bags with food and also accurately filling out food forms, which was also important as I was being held responsible and accountable for my placement by my placement mentor. In addition to intentionality, a second aspect of what volunteering means to me must incorporate a personal motivation. In other words, a why, a reason, or reasons behind why you're doing what you do. American social psychologist Robert Wuthnow has devoted considerable effort to compiling an inventory of motives for volunteering. He argues that motivational attributions for young people are usually set by cultural understandings passed on to them by their parents, who taught them a positive way to think about volunteer work. However, much of my personal motivation came from my faith, which stimulated my choice to be affiliated with a church-based organisation. Motivation also came from having a strong emotional connection to the cause. According to CEO Andrea Donlan, she emphasises in the ideal corporate volunteering model that strong emotional connection is vital for volunteering, as it stimulates participation, and I believe it also stimulates dedication. This is prevalent in my volunteering placement, as weeks 1 to 3 were great and exciting, learning the culture of the place and adapting to the new community. But as I got into the routine of arriving at the food bank, giving out raffle tickets, interviewing customers and experiencing the physical demand of stacking up bags and distributing food, I became tired. However, my emotional connection stirred me on to continue to work diligently at a high standard. I'm now going to present to you a few photos that I found online when investigating and looking into volunteering. This one, this also, another, and finally this one. These pictures that I found online are either one of two things: logos from voluntary organisations or pictures from voluntary websites that have incorporated these pictures into their blog posts or website. Interestingly, what stood out to me the most was the overt emphasis of relationship building, which I also believe is a crucial part of volunteering. It is noteworthy that in the past when I volunteered, I often didn't try and build very strong relationships with my team due to the fact I expected I probably would never see them again. However, Having done this 10-week placement, I've realised that this is an integral role to volunteering, as open, mutually respectful relationships with volunteers was an enormous help to make things run smoothly and even getting things done. This was seen especially by week 4, when I had built relationships with the food bank staff, and as time had progressed, I could see that the efficiency of the body of workers was noticeably increasing, due to the fact that we were familiar with one another and we had built a relationship. Staff were more willing to assist me pack the bags, and also give me breaks if I needed them. At Warwick University, I am a theatre and performance undergraduate student. My course requires innovating your own ideas, creative processes, and a wide scope of thinking. However, for this module, I found that my understanding of volunteering was quite uncreative and very narrow. In short, it was as simple as manual labour. However, if we look at this diagram here, of Taproot's spectrum of corporate community engagement, we can observe interesting things. Firstly, in the 3 categories that the diagram tells us are the categories of corporate support, one can see 2 rubrics entitled Hands-on Volunteering and Skills-Based Volunteering. The company explained that hands-on volunteering is use of general skills to building the infrastructure and leadership capacity overall, while skill-based volunteerism focuses on leveraging and direct professional expertise of volunteers to deliver professional services at a calibre an organisation would otherwise have to pay for on the market. This surprised me, as I never made any distinctions between volunteering and had tended to homogenise it. Despite the fact that this was a corporate model, I can see how this was implemented in my volunteering experience. I saw how there was a focus on my professional skills. In week 1, for example, during my interview, the church wanted to use my dance and acting abilities, which I have been trained in to a high calibre, to put on a showcase for the children. As a result, my understanding of volunteering became more enriched due to the fact that rather than simply thinking volunteering involved giving up time in my afternoon for some good old manual labour, I realised it was also the service of my professional talents and abilities. However, in my opinion, skill set volunteering should not solely include voluntary professional expertise that people should otherwise have to pay for. It should also recognise the importance of interpersonal skills also. For example, a person's capability to listen, care, or even their body language. In my interview for my placement, I was never asked to give an example of when I had used my own interpersonal skills in past volunteering placements. This was strange to me, due to the fact that from week 1 to the end of my placement, interpersonal skills were vital. I saw how interpersonal skills were vital across the weeks in these contexts due to the fact food bank customers felt more comfortable when we smiled at them and gave positive body language, which a customer explained to us in week 6. So alongside manual labour and professional skills, volunteering must also have interpersonal skills. According to Claire Holdsworth's journal, Why Volunteer? Understanding Motivations for Student Volunteering, volunteering, she says, offers an opportunity to learn about other people's experiences. This was not my idea of volunteering at all before this placement. However, it was through week 2 class discussion, where we questioned certain university volunteering schemes, that I realised I pretty much always tried to implement or impart my own experiences and teach them to others when I went to volunteer. However, I now believe that volunteering must include a willingness to learn about other people's experiences, rather than always implementing your own. This is why I try to do this, and you'll see in the following video, as I encouraged a staff member to speak and tell me about why they volunteered at the food bank.
It's been a blessing. I've grown so much. I've met a lot of people. I've touched so many lives. One of the reasons why I'm motivated to do this every day is because I feel like, I feel like the system has given me a lot of opportunity. I feel like I want to put back into it. I want to touch life. As a Christian, it's an opportunity for me to meet people who are maybe not saved or who are lost, who are looking for hope. And food bank, being a voluntary here has actually given me the opportunity to do that, to evangelize, apart from giving them food, able to help them, maybe in terms of helping them through to get the benefit, or just giving them advice that might help them to change their lives. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I'm still here. I love it. I love people. I'm a people person. And yeah, that's it really. Yeah.
From an economic point of view, volunteering is a paradox, given economists' basic assumption of human behaviour is to be self-interested and rational. Volunteers defy this core supposition, in they'd undertake activities wherein their costs exceed their benefits. However, for myself, I pretty much realised that I had always seen volunteering as a way to benefit myself, and for my benefits to outweigh my costs. I admit that I began my volunteering placement with a slightly selfish mentality because my intention was that this experience would prepare me for my future job. I did have a strong desire to serve others, however, there was an intention to serve myself. I now consider that my understanding has changed due to the fact that having your needs being met as your primary intention probably redefines the concept of volunteering as a whole, essentially because your desire is to serve yourself as opposed to other people. In week 3, Heather Parker came to speak to us in class.
Don't think that having an oppressive society is a good thing for anybody, and I'd like to see an end to that. I think the greatest social issue at the moment, just kind of roughly, is austerity. Is like it's hugely impactful on deprived communities and on anybody, well, lots of people actually, but particularly obviously the most vulnerable in society.
Although I understand that this clip is very short, she understood that a need seen should be met, or at least tackled. In her case, that was austerity. What I took from her was simply that I must recognise problems and do something about them, big or small. So, at the food bank, when I saw someone who was crying, I would encourage them until they were better. When I saw someone who was lonely, I would choose to sit with them and speak to them. When I saw somebody who was sick, I would pray for them and advise them on the different options they can take. I used whatever I could to serve the appropriate need in that moment, and that's what I believe volunteering is about, being proactive to meet a need. One of the greatest influences of my understanding of what volunteering means to me occurred in my class. This not only drastically shifted my understanding, this caused a new behaviour to also emerge outside of the classroom. This was the concept of volunteers having support. In classes, we use materials such as the constructive listening diet as a supportive outlet to get things off our chest, and we're also encouraged to implement the support group model in our out-of-class meetups. The model included an opening round, share time, and a closing round, which aim to give the speaking volunteers respect, privilege their interests, and provide total confidentiality. This influenced me so much that I implemented it with the other volunteer staff at my workplace, giving them time to talk about their personal lives, for us to catch up, and for us to follow this model so that they could effectively feel supported. Overall, I enjoyed my placement and have acquired many new perspectives. Consequently, volunteering has taken on new meanings that a niche definition would be too feeble to delineate. Consequently, I have chosen to write a poem for my conclusion, to summarise my aforementioned points that enriched and informed my overall understanding of volunteering. Oh, volunteering, how it is so multifaceted. Yet I cannot forget it or dare to address it without realizing how it has contoured something afresh in my own understanding. Because now, from our 10-week encounter, your meanings count onto infinity. But to summarize in a few lines, in your meaning, I see intention. I see strong dedication, emotional investment and participation with your cause. And I've decided motivation should be at your core. Yes, I applaud the relational cultivation that you implore and use to mature my naive ways of thinking. You are professional, interpersonal, and your hands-on skills make you versatile. Your purpose is to serve. You allow people to be heard and the hungry to be preserved, and urge a concern in me for the needs of others. And this is truly my captivation of your meaning, an essence that I'm gleaning from this seemingly short space of time. You have handed me something new, fresh perspectives to choose, such like how you provide accountability, a supportive community, and a proactive serving team that uses their ability and time to help others.